There's a fine line between respecting your divinity and disrespecting divinity, just like there's a very fine line between creating your reality and playing God. The difference comes down to how much self-importance you allow yourself, whether or not you see divinity in every aspect of the divine experience, meaning you honor the divine within every single fractal of source consciousness, and also whether you actually have faith in the essence of faith itself. Meaning, do you perceive the divine as something that needs to be revered in a certain individual or in a certain aspect of this experience that you put on a pedestal and that you glorify? Or are you able to humble yourself into the position of appreciating all that exists, seeing its underlying purpose, and letting yourself find purpose in being a steward of consciousness? To enter this kind of a position of honoring the divine experience in its entirety, it's first important to see that you cannot simultaneously honor the divine outside of you and not honor the divine within yourself. Which means if you find it easier to attach to a divine notion of either being able to revere a religious icon, a spiritual leader, a certain doctrine or system of beliefs outside of you, but simultaneously withhold that amount of faith and love from yourself, then you're creating a one-way street when it comes to religious devotion. That becomes idolatry, and it's a slippery slope from there, wherein you might start to experience an exalted spiritual identity through the attachment to spiritual beliefs, but that's only reinforcing what's in your mental body of consciousness. Those beliefs that you might uphold about where the divine is to be found in some source outside of you actually might take you away from the source within you. Because anything that you revere as a source of divinity outside of you could easily become a way of projecting the expectation of where the divine is to be found. And in doing so, you might even become codependent on the notion that the divine is only accessible outside of you. From that standpoint, what you might start to experience is, yes, humbling yourself to respect divinity, but simultaneously finding yourself in the position of a martyr, self-sacrificing a part of your identity, or even experiencing shame when it comes to loving certain parts of your authentic self. It's also important to recognize the difference between spirituality, faith, and religion, because they are not unanimous concepts. One can be religious and have faith in a divine source, but absolutely exclude that faith within themselves and not honor the divine source that lives within their heart and soul. Just as one can be spiritual and completely disregard faith for anything beyond themselves, leading to this egoic complex in which they serve some kind of notion of what they want to believe in, but simultaneously exclude everything that needs to be devoted to as part of an integrative experience. If we're finding ourselves adopting any belief system, religious model, or ideology in a way to self-soothe and to preserve an ego that does not want to integrate different beliefs, different opinions, and to hold space for truly unconditional love, then that is just a way of idolizing the system of belief that preserves our identity as we know it. And so many people are brought into a reality because they were indoctrinated with those particular beliefs, with certain teachings and religious views that make them exclude themselves from that view of a holistic spiritual experience. The only way to see a holistic spiritual experience is by accessing that spiritual aspect within you. And that's really the default state that all of us experience. If we were all allowed to own our subtle feelings, our inner aspects from which genuine beliefs arise, beliefs that were not enforced on us by other people, by higher ups, within any kind of a hierarchy, religious, societal, or otherwise, then we would all start to naturally cultivate a spiritually holistic view of reality. That's a view that allows us to lean on ourselves, to have integrity, and to enrich our own moral compass with the views that allow us to experience more compassion, connection, love, and alignment. As soon as we split from that genuine orientation, where we trust ourselves to choose what we want to align with, we start to limit our own capacity to experience connection, because we stop having faith in what we feel deep down. So often, people that uphold very strict religious views or spiritual beliefs are not able to integrate certain feelings that arise as a part of their experience. But let's zoom out to understand what that really entails. If you have a certain view of yourself as a spiritual being, then you're looking at your entire reality through the lens of those spiritual teachings or beliefs. Perhaps those are things that you've conceived of or that you learned elsewhere. As soon as you adopt those teachings and beliefs, you become a version of yourself that's now convinced that to be the best version of yourself, you must uphold just those beliefs. That's like choosing to don a certain pair of glasses and not being able to see anything outside of what that lens of perspective is able to impart on your experience. And so let's say you feel something arise internally that conflicts with that particular belief. Maybe you feel some degree of discomfort, and you're not allowed to acknowledge that feeling because the spiritual or religious teaching says otherwise. What you would then proceed to do is feel internal shame and feel a need to contract yourself energetically to support an even greater split in your consciousness, because your spiritual beliefs and your identity outside of your own somatic condition is training you or disciplining you into being separate from what you feel in that moment. What emerges then is a need to violate your own self-awareness, your own ability to know yourself and to trust what you believe in, to a faith in something found elsewhere. When you give more power to any belief, any view or system of teaching that is outside of the source that you experience deep down, you feel this inner conflict, and that conflict creates an egoic crisis by which you feel the need to seclude yourself in order to keep experiencing connection to that system of belief. If there is any form of repression associated with spiritual, religious, or any other kind of teachings or beliefs, then a part of you and the being holding that view is not actually in compliance with it. That split is energy that doesn't lie. That's energy that's going in two separate directions, wherein some part is compressed and is feeling suffocated by the need to uphold these higher level etheric beliefs and views about reality, but not actually feeling in alignment with making that decision. So what you end up creating is dissonance. And every single time you have faith in something that's masking an underlying feeling of pain, discomfort, or a fragmented identity, you are actually creating even more of a crisis underlying the identity and its notions of how it's to show up in reality. So many people are turning to faith, spirituality, religion in order to find a way to deal with their pain and internal loneliness, to escape their worries, and to find the promise of connection to the divine in order to soothe themselves on a deeper level. The problem with this is that if that is seen as an escape route from the pain, then it's akin to choosing to self-medicate. And then there's also the view that we are all creators of our reality, so whatever it is that you want to create, you can create at your will. Now, even though I'm somebody that believes in the concept that you are creating your reality and you need to practice your free will, this does not mean that you need to experience yourself as God, or that you need to try to play God in order to achieve everything that you could possibly desire in your reality, because this is simply not the way that it works. To experience yourself as a creator is to find that you have a seed of creation within you, which you were bestowed with because you were once created. As you were part of this real-life simulation, you were once a thought form, an idea, an energetic seed that expanded into a physical vessel of consciousness that now has the ability to procreate through ideation, creation, and through giving physical life. If you don't see that that creation is a gift that must be utilized to find more value in yourself and in reality at the same time, then that might lay the framework for a desire to control reality, manipulate reality, or focus solely on the materialistic and egocentric aspects of yourself to fulfill that unfulfilled need to be a gift of this creation. Whenever you aren't fulfilling a deeper purpose and finding yourself as a purposeful antenna of source consciousness, you're going to look for other ways to include your identity. You might feel like you need to medicate pain by distracting yourself or by achieving certain things that just fulfill you on that level of physical comfort and focus on your physical needs more than your emotional or spiritual needs. What this then creates is a need to depart from creation as part of the energetic potentiality that lives within you, and to move into more hedonistic and self-centered ways of creating your reality. So what we often hear about in the spiritual world is that you can create your reality in order to manifest anything to meet those unmet needs. But very often people feel a need to turn to spirituality in order to connect those dots for themselves. They feel like they're only willing to have faith in spirituality, and faith for that matter, in order to initiate themselves into a journey of achieving their deepest desires. This, of course, is entirely conditional. It's not based on faith in themselves or faith in the purpose of the universe. It's not based on faith in the power of love or in understanding the deeper meaning of life and the lessons that were afforded to them through everything they have already gone through. This way of choosing to manifest things in order to create a reality that's more spectacular than the one you're currently experiencing is really just a coping strategy. It's a way of turning away from the shadow and from everything you don't want to be experiencing to find yourself in a mode of self-gratification and more complacency with the position you're currently in. Whenever materialism strikes as the solution to fill the inner aspects that don't feel fulfilled, faith is missing. Faith not only in the self and in what can be experienced in reality, but in the creation itself. Because what we begin to realize when we actually give ourselves to faith as a deeper system of belief by which we need to surrender to the universal experience, analyze all of the signs and all of the meaning that's already right before us, and fully humble ourselves enough to understand why all of this has been created for us in the first place. When that can happen, we can finally allow ourselves to be at peace, to stop seeking, to stop trying to manifest anything, and to fully appreciate the manifestation as it currently is. This is often the missing piece. If you find yourself constantly needing to self-medicate or self-soothe in your reality, through the form of perhaps even meditation, breath work, or constantly going on spiritual adventures in order to find your more spiritual identity, then perhaps you're missing the point of faith itself, which is to have faith in divine harmony and in the divine order that already exists all around you. To slow yourself down to the point where your pacing matches that of the universal harmony. To allow yourself to experience alignment without needing to create anything else other than what currently exists. And by that I mean, you choose to access the energetic potentiality in the here and now to experience your own divinity and the divinity all around you. You can actually access a blissful state of consciousness by fully surrendering your need to even mentally attach to anything outside of you. You can find this universal love within your heart by just appreciating stillness, equilibrium, and balance as it's already existent in the here and now. Often you can find that less is more when you choose to reduce the kind of stimulation that you're exposed to. And you can even find that happiness is very often achieved by eliminating the quest for anything outside of you. And that's something that can only fully be acknowledged if you give yourself to faith, and to the faith that all of this is within reach if you allow yourself to experience it. This is not something that can be proven, and you can't have my permission or anybody else's to allow you to experience this depth of universal love. The point is to learn that when you have faith in the universal experience as something that is reflective of the properties of your own consciousness, you will experience an amplification and expansion of everything you're already housing within yourself. And so if you're housing fear, pain, insecurity, and a lack of self-worth, then regardless of what you choose to believe in faith-wise or in terms of religion or spirituality or different things that you're trying to manifest into your reality, you're still going to be experiencing that dormant condition of self-alienation, because what you're truly looking for is to have faith in the deeper aspects of yourself that are longing for integration. You want to have faith in your higher self in order to believe that this awareness, wisdom, and power is already accessible to you. But until you have faith that you actually have the power and divine right to achieve alignment, to achieve love and unity within your own field of consciousness. Nothing is going to convince you of that. And so you might keep looking for answers or solutions or ways to bring yourself away from what you don't want to be experiencing. But without faith, you will not be able to access precisely what you do. And what we all universally want to feel is that it is safe enough to surrender our false identity, that it's safe to abolish all of these dogmatic beliefs, principles, egoic biases, and conditions that might be secluding our potential to actually exist in a loving space within and outside of ourselves. We're looking for the permission subconsciously to have faith in a higher plan, in a higher timeline, in a better reality that we can experience, if only we have the permission and freedom to do so. But until we have faith, we're never going to know that we need to make that decision by giving ourselves the permission for ourselves. When we start to contact that innate truth within us, we find the faith to choose the right solution. We find it in us to make the right choices subconsciously, because faith is that universal current that brings us there. It's like tapping into a stream of intelligence that allows you to access exactly where you need to go without even necessarily knowing exactly why you're making that decision or going in that direction, because that is truly the art of embodying the flow state. When you have faith, you're able to know certain things of a higher quality that bring you to the right place at the right time. And when you do that, you contact the frequency within your own field that energetically aligns you with even more opportunities to experience amplification of your love, of your faith and trust that everything will work out when you choose to uphold this sacred alignment within yourself. And that is where you contact your own divinity, where you don't need to necessarily prove it or experience it via attachment to some divine model outside of you. You start to worship the divine within you and within every single other living being, because we're all here to access that divine expression and to find ways to hold space for a divinely unified experience by loving the other, by forgiving, by choosing to let go of any attachments or negative feelings that hold us in a position of hostility or judgment, because that is ultimately what distracts us from the divine way. In order to truly access our divinity, we need only to stop trying to play God and to start witnessing the act of the universal creation all around us, which means we must allow ourselves to enter the space of the witness. We must first be appreciative and deeply serve the purpose of expansion by honoring everything that already is divine all around us. When we start to see universal order, meaning, and everything but randomness all around us, we can access even more ways to cultivate that flow, that meaning, and to be a part of what the universe wants to create through our very fabric of existence. That allows us to feel divine, because if we're allowing ourselves to serve our highest purpose, we feel that the divine is actually helping us along the way. It's pushing us to experience even more expansion when we finally let ourselves answer that call for action and choose to pursue even more divinity through our every action and opportunity to embrace our divine selves.